On Wednesday, September 19th, last week, we started reading an article about Greece's Golden Age, and in it we were practicing learning some strategies that were going to help us with reading nonfiction material. And we'll be doing this periodically throughout the year, learning a strategy and then using it to practice reading on an article. So this time I modeled it for students, and later this week, the week of the 24th, students will actually be working with a partner and going through the same process. They'll have a dictionary in front of them and they'll be able to kind of think things through with a partner. So what I did is I just started reading it the way I read and modeled what students should be saying to themselves as they're reading. This is an especially challenging text as far as vocabulary, and so I showed them there are words in it that, you know, if you don't know what to do when you come across, some strategies to help you. So, when the term Great Civilization is floated, a common reactive thought is Greece and Rome. Well, Great Civilization is in italics print, so that must mean that it's a pretty important idea in this article. And a great civilization is a group of people that must have been pretty great. And it looks like here we're talking about the people of Greece and Rome. I'm not sure what reactive thought means. A common reactive thought. But when I think of a reaction, that sounds like reactive. So maybe a reaction when people talk about great civilizations is that they start to think about Greece and Rome. There are reasons for this, many of them reflecting mankind's better angels. Mankind's better angels. That sounds like figurative language because I don't think we're really talking about angels. So it sounds like it's personification. And I think it means something to do with when I think of angels like being a blessing or people thinking good things about them. Maybe they're protectors. So the reason that people think of Greece and Rome are that they're comparing them to angels in that they were helpful and were the good side of mankind. Greece and Rome, when they were on the ascent, and even for a time when they were on top, were progressive and innovative in many ways, both physical and philosophical. Well, there are a couple words here I don't know. Ascent. And ascent, I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds like ascend. And to ascend is to rise, like to climb a mountain is to ascend. So maybe they're talking about when Greece and Rome were on the rise. And even for a time when they were on top, they were progressive and innovative. Those sound like two words I've never heard of before. Progressive. Not sure what progressive is, but I know that there's a term inside of it, progress, and when I think of progress, it makes me think of getting better or improving at something. So maybe they mean that when Greece and Rome were on the rise, and even for a time when they were on top, they were progressing, they were getting better, and were innovative in ways both physical and philosophical. Innovative I'm not sure of, but I've heard of the term innovation when we talk about like technology. And when I think about technology, I think about something that's new, and makes life better. So maybe that's what they're talking about with Greece and Rome trying to make the world better and have progress, both physically and philosophically in the way that they were healthy, the way that they lived, and philosophically in the way that they believed. They held civilization's hand and helped it up the next step. Held civilization's hand. That does not sound like it's literally talking about holding their hand. So when they say civilization's holding civilization's hand, that makes me think of more figurative language. Maybe that's personification. And actually, when I look up here, I think I made a mistake in thinking that this was personification, because this one is actually a metaphor. It's saying that mankind is something else. That's a metaphor, not personification. So holding civilization's hands, people can hold hands, but we're talking about a group of people that lived in the time of Greece and Rome. They didn't actually hold hands with anybody, so they must be talking about how they helped other civilizations by giving them assistance, helping them up the next step to become better. They were powerful, certainly, but they were optimistic and at their best hopeful of building a just society. They were optimistic. Well, optimistic means to me that they looked on the bright side of something, or they were positive. When I think of somebody who's optimistic, I think of somebody who's positive and looks on the bright side of things. So they're saying that they were powerful, but they were looking on the bright side, looking at the positive, and at their best, hopeful of building a just society. Just. I've heard just used as in I just went to the store, but by itself here, building a just society. Well, I know there's the term justice, which has just in it, and we're talking about a group of people who probably had some kind of a judicial system. So talking about a just society means maybe that they were hoping of building a fair society. And I know that in social studies we've been talking about how our government is based off of how the government was in Greece and Rome. So maybe that does have to do with justice and being fair and equal. Greece in particular, during its short 50-year golden age in the 5th century BC, established a record of political and cultural achievement. That seems like a lot of words. 50-year golden age. Well, I remember talking in language arts when we were learning about Greek mythology that the golden age was a time when man lived at a very good time. There was very little suffering. They talked about how man lived like God, so life must have been pretty good. But it didn't last very long, because 50 years is not very long of a time when we look at an entire civilization. Oops, sorry about that. So we were talking about the golden age of Greece and how good the life was for the people that lived at that time. So Greece in particular, during its short 50-year golden age in the 5th century BC, established or set up a record of political and cultural achievement. So an achievement is something that you are able to do and be successful at that is arguably unrivaled. Arguably unrivaled. When I think of arguing, people are fighting, not getting along, or debating. And so it sounds like they're debating whether or not the Greeks were unrivaled in the history of mankind, unrivaled in that nobody was able to beat them. I think of rivals in football. If a team is unrivaled, it means they can't be beat. So they're talking about how Rome and Greece's civilization couldn't be beat, and that some people would argue that they were the best. For too short a time, they were a shining light, the fountainhead of Western civilization. A fountainhead, I'm not sure what that is. There's a book called The Fountainhead. That's about an architect. I'm not sure what that has to do with this. A fountainhead, he set the way for others. He was determined in how he lived. Maybe a fountainhead is somebody who led the way for Western civilization. And it said they out-Persianed the Persians. Well, the Persians were another civilization that were very great. So maybe they're saying that Greece's civilization was much better than what the Persians had. So this is an example of how to do a think aloud, and we are going to call it writing with a pencil or reading with a pencil, so that while students are reading, they're writing information down, they're highlighting, not all the pieces of information that they find, but maybe things that they think are important, things that they have questions about, circling vocabulary terms, looking them up as we go, and then what we'll do is reread this again another day later this week, where we go through and read it with our notes and hopefully have a better understanding of it by then. Okay, so this is called Reading with a Pencil, and I did it modeling a think aloud.